Skadoosh. So, Kung Fu Panda 4. My thoughts on the Kung Fu Panda series really quick. Oh, don't tell me the computer's doing the lag again. Okay, no, it seems fine. It was a little off, but it's all good now. So where was I? Kung Fu Panda 4. And I'm going to angle that a little bit more over here. My brief thoughts on the original 3. To be honest, I've actually never seen the second one in its entirety. But I do know the movie, and both I like the first one a lot, and the second one, what I have seen, I like a lot. Third one I liked too. Third one I did think was, I think, the weakest one of the original 3. And my thoughts follow through to the next one. I do think this is the weakest of the now 4 movies. That doesn't mean I think it's bad, though, and I'm just going to enlarge that just a little bit. There we go. That doesn't mean I think it's a bad movie at all. In fact, I had a good time with this movie when the kids in the theater finally shut up. Little side note here. Look, 6:30. 6:30 at night, that's when my showing was. And I get it. Family movie. You have a bunch of kids. That's great. I'm willing to allow... If this were not a kids movie or a family movie in the same vein, I'd be a lot less tolerant of kids kind of just not shutting up. But because it is that style of movie, and this is the movie that's designed at least for them, and for something for mom and dad, at least to some degree, I can allow certain behavior, but you need to know how to rein your kids in too. The dad was taking the kids in and out of theater a couple times. I want to say it took them like 15 minutes to shut up. And eventually they started watching the film. Eventually they did. Because they were talking a little bit too much for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Again, eventually they finally quieted down, they settled down, and they ultimately went and watched the movie. So, with that said, what did I think of the movie? Like I said, it is the weakest of them, and I can point out some flaws of the movie, definitely, and I will. But overall, it's still a very entertaining time. It is still a fun time. I enjoyed myself with it. No, I enjoyed myself with it. It's still got the charm. It's still got a lot of the charm. It is missing a little bit of the charm from the originals, though. I will say that. The first 3 definitely had more charm. And you know what? Let me get into my complaints now so I can praise the stuff that's good, because it's mostly good. It is mostly good. I think the part of the charm, and I mentioned this in my Out of the Theater reaction last night, I think part of the charm is gone because this didn't quite feel like a movie. At least not a theatrical movie. This felt more like a direct-to-DVD movie, a very well-done one. But it feels that way more in its tone and pacing. I mentioned last night that I thought it was more pacing than tone. Now that I sat on it a bit longer, I'm like, no, the tone and pacing felt a bit more off here. And not to say it was like completely gone or anything, it's just there was something missing here. It's kind of like how some people have complained about the MCU lately. Like, the magic right now is kind of gone from the MCU. When I mean by magic is, it's not that they still can't make good content. We saw that with Loki Season 2. We saw that with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We've seen that with, honestly, most of the films that came out last year. With, the previous year, with, like, Doctor Strange, even Black Panther 2. Some problems they had were still decent films. But they're no longer just cranking out hits. They're now, every other film was a hit. Or 2 films one will be not so good, one will be okay, and then one will be a hit. Now it's not like a perfect track record. I feel it's kind of the same issue going with Kung Fu Panda here, to a lesser degree. In the first 3, they captured a perfect balance of the fun and silly, but also these spiritual elements and the familial struggles that Poe would be going through. Water. Wouldn't that be funny if that's a thumbnail? But here it is all still there. The spirituality is still there. The family dynamic is still there. Poe learning something about himself is still there. But it all just feels a little lesser for some reason. Like I said, it feels a bit more like this would have been a direct-to-DVD movie. A good movie, mind you. But rather than, or like a 3-part episode to the show. That's what it kind of feels like to me. And I think, mind you, part of that just comes from the fact that there's nothing wholly original. When I say original, There's nothing wholly original in any of the reveals in the movie, the lessons learned. Like, okay, so the basic plot, you do see it in the trailer, is Poe is basically no longer going to be the Dragon Warrior. He now has to appoint a successor to be the next Dragon Warrior, as he will become the spiritual advisor. And he doesn't really want to, because that's all he's known. But along the way, he knows that this chameleon, the chameleon, is causing problems. She's a shapeshifter, stealing kung fu, as we see. She's gonna, take over the whole valley. Right when he teams up with this fox, played by Awkwafina, and lessons are learned, friendships are made, problems are solved. It's the standard stuff. There's nothing wholly unique in that, and that's not bad. It's just, I'm like, okay, I've seen this, and we know what Poe's lesson is ultimately going to be. Particularly when he meets certain people, we're like, okay, well, this is how that relationship is going to go. This is how that relationship's going to go. Oh, this surprise happened. Well, they're going to learn this and this and this. And none of it is done badly. I should say that. None of that is done badly. It's just, it feels a step down from the other three. Now, having said all that, everything that worked in their first three, most apart from those things, everything that worked extremely well, the humor, still pretty funny movie. There's a good couple laughs involving his dads. Honestly, here's the thing. That'll be one last thing I'll say about things that don't work as well. The dynamic with his dads, I feel like it's just kind of there. Like they're there to throw a proverb dump on him about what he needs to do and all that. But yeah, they're just kind of there. There's actually not a point for them to really still be there in terms, except for background characters. But they give them things to do, and they get some laughs. There's a scene in a tavern that is funny. I at least thought it was funny. And then there's a repeat of that scene that goes a different way, which is also very funny. So it's not like they're not unwelcome comic relief. I just felt that story is like, we're done with this story. Come on. But that being said, Shifu's not in the film a lot, but he's fine. He's still voiced by Dustin Hoffman. Jack Black is still very delightful. You get the lovely humor, but the earnest nature of Poe still very much shines through, particularly with his relationship with, and I'm blanking on the fox's name. I'm calling her Awkwafina because that's who voices her. I am still not in the camp yet of someone who is tired of Awkwafina. I think Awkwafina, though, is someone who needs to be used in the right dosage and the right amount. I'm liking her more with voice work than I am as an actress. And I don't hate her as an actress. Keep that in mind. I don't hate her as an actress. But I am... what's the best way to put it? I am dubious of her when she shows up in film. I'm like, okay, is this going to be... I'm Awkwafina doing my Awkwafina bit. Or is this going to be, oh no, Awkwafina trying. When Awkwafina tries, I can't remember the name of the movie. It had to do, I think, with a terminally ill, a family member in her family, or she was. I can't remember exactly what the name of the film was. Apparently, it was really good. She was really good in it. So, yeah, I've never watched Nora from Queens, so I can't speak to that. But, yeah, Awkwafina... when she's doing the voice, I liked her as Raya in Raya and the Last Dragon. I liked her. The movie's okay, but I liked her in the role. I do like her. I liked her in Ocean's 8. I liked her in Jumanji. And I loved her in Shang-Chi. I actually thought she was really good in Shang-Chi. So I do like her as a performer. She's kind of got a Kevin Hart vibe to me, where I'm like, yeah, it teeters. But here, no, it works. She's got that streetwise, crass nature, the idea of the untrustworthy character learning to be trusting. And when she has to do a more emotional moment with Poe, I like the character. You see her arc very clearly, honestly, from the get. From the meeting of this character, we see where this arc is going to go. Especially when it's tied with Poe. We're like, okay, we see where this is going, but we're here for it. It's not a matter of how we see it coming. It's a matter of how good do they portray the story, and they do it well. I think they do it well. The kung fu stuff is still really good. It's still very fun. There is a scene early on, admittedly, very first scene of the movie, where I'm like, when they do a motion sweep of the landscape, I'm like, oh god, this is messing with my eyes a little bit. It's so blurry. But then it ultimately gets handled. You know what? One other thing I'll point out is because Tai Lung is in the movie, and Ian McShane comes back to voice him. I I find it amusing that they mentioned that Poe's enemies are coming back. This individual, the chameleon, can take the form and shape and power of Poe's former enemies. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great. And you see, I can't remember Gary Oldman's Peacock and Kai, who was from the third movie, voiced by J.K. Simmons. Clearly, though, they could only get Ian McShane back because he's the only one of those three with speaking lines. And legitimately, he actually doesn't just have speaking lines. While he's only in the movie for maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes, maybe, he does actually have a little bit of an arc from where we left him off last. It's kind of impressive. It's actually very impressive that even though we haven't really seen this character in the movies, mind you, since the first movie. He was mentioned in the third, where he had his cheese stolen by Kai, and then was released. He does have a little bit of an arc, which I like, because I like Ian McShane anyway, and he's a cool character, Tai Lung. And when he gets to show off a little bit what he can do, it's still badass, because he's always just had a really good design. But I do find it amusing that they say, oh, she can turn all Poe's villains. Like, the only one who could come back to record his lines for an afternoon. Literally. He barely had any lines. Not barely, but he had like an afternoon, not even an hour's worth of lines to record. That's it. Like, you're telling me JK and Gary Oldman couldn't come back? I mean, I'm sure they're busy. JK's always busy, and Gary Oldman is like one of the best actors around. So, and JK's good too. But I don't know, they could just come in for like 5, 10, whatever the scale was, to just record some lines. Because you know for a fact that they could have gotten them, those two characters would have had lines too. I don't know. It's just something I noted while watching it. Yeah, and then you have the character of the chameleon, who is pretty fun. Viola Davis is just having even though she's a chameleon, she has like a snake-like tail, which I'm guessing is because chameleons' tails are normally curled up. They're actually very long. Maybe that's what they were trying to go with that. But the tail is, honestly, it looks like a snake mixed with an alligator, but she almost slithers with it. It's very weird. But she's a lot of fun. She's a fun, very just evil character, but with some like evil humor to her as well. She's got a couple one-liners, definitely. Otherwise, I mean, is there anything else I can really speak to? The film still looks fantastic. The sweeping landscapes still look good when we get them. Like the straight CGI is a lot of fun, is really good. The music is still great. Obviously, if you've been around on the internet for a while now, you know for a fact that Hit Me Baby One More Time. I've had the damn song stuck in my head now. I'm not a Britney Spears fan that much, but I grew up with it. I knew it. And like that, I heard Jack Black going, what was it? My loneliness is, it's it's, I must confess that my loneliness is killing me now. I'm not going to lie. I've been re-listening to it. Like, it's a good version. And you know what? To hell with anyone who says, oh, the Jack Black shtick has gotten old. F you. If it's gotten old for you, great, but don't speak for other people, because I love it still. I love the fact that a guy in his 50s, Jack Black is like 50. What is Jack Black now? Like 56? I want to say, like early 50s? Let's see. Jack Black. 1 second. Jack Black. 54. He's 54. And he's definitely got the white in his hair and all that. I love the fact that he's still a pudgy guy, but he's still he's still a grown, he's not even a man-child. He's just a big kid in a grown man's body. And he's basically one of those people who's like, yeah, I don't want to grow up. And, yeah, I didn't grow up. Never wanted to grow up. I'm still a kid. And, like, the fact that a guy that big, who's been around this long, first off, I hope he's in great health. I hope he's in good health, because I want Jack Black around forever. Is able to just, be that energetic and have just that much fun. I heard it put best. Jack Black is the vibe. That's what I heard it put. So I mean, now he's been Bowser, and I'm sure they'll do it. He'll come back to do that when they do Mario 3 or 2, which you know for a fact that's coming. He's going to be the voice of the robot in Borderlands. Which, look, as someone who never played the game, I'm admittedly like, okay, look, that looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy knockoff, but I like Guardians of the Galaxy, and this does look fun. So I'm dubiously optimistic. It's kind of Jack Black's world, right? It's Godzilla's world right now. We're living in it, and it's Jack Black's world, and we're living in it right now. And who's to argue with that? Look, ultimately, I like this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. If someone I knew wanted to see it, I'd go out and see it again. Yeah, but I was screwing you with it on that one. My mouth is just doing this weird thing where it kind of goes like just a little bit when I talk. I just find that weird. But anyway. Since I was asked to do that, trailers. I didn't have my booklet with me, but I can actually remember most of them. We had that Arthur the King movie with Mark Wahlberg coming out next week. That's the movie I'll probably be out next week. It looks perfectly charming, and it's got a dog and a human relationship, and I'm always a sucker for that. We had Godzilla x Kong with one new clip I didn't see where Godzilla tail whips Scar King. I'm like, my girlfriend basically said, I'm kind of moved out after doing it. I'm like, okay, let me think about what the next movie coming out you'd probably want to see is. And I'm thinking, like, she doesn't want to see Ghostbusters. I mean, she might want to see it, but I'll ask her about that. And I'll ask, oh, no, it's Godzilla and Kong. You know that's the one you want to go to. She's like, yeah. But look, I love the MonsterVerse as it's been portrayed. I really do. Like, there have been some better films than others, but on the whole, I'm a big fan of this universe. Absolutely. And I can't wait for the new one. So Godzilla vs. Kong, great. We had not the new trailer for Inside Out 2. We had the original trailer where you had Crazy Train playing and all that. The new trailer, I was surprised when we got that. I'm like, oh, I was expecting the new trailer. Because the new trailer is really good. And I'm like, anxiety apparently is the villain of the movie. Okay, the antagonist. Yeah, so, and I'm sure, look, Pixar is great, and the first Inside Out is a masterclass film. I am sure what's going to happen is they think they know what's best for her. They're going to realize, oh, wait, no, maybe this wasn't a good idea. And then the original emotions are going to come in, and they're going to make it like, she needs both of us. And there you go. It's Joy. Actually, to be fair, it's not Joy's problem this time. It's all five emotions' problem this time. Where, yeah, they're at the moment, they're not complex enough. They haven't grown and evolved beyond their main level of beyond what they do, because what we see in the parents' head is the five emotions. Notice you don't see those other four emotions in the other parents' heads. Now that's not to say they might not be there. They might just live within like a little pocket space, because those emotions, anxiety, envy, boredom, and embarrassment, exist throughout your whole life, just like your top core five. But where are they in the parents' heads, I wonder? We see that those emotions don't act the same way as Riley's emotions do. They don't act as just so caricature. Can't say caricature. Yeah, there it was, caricature. That's such caricatures of the emotion that they're portraying. They are matured up. They still represent that and represent what that needs to be, but they're more, they've just grown. I think that's maybe going to be another kind of core theme of the movie, where the core five have to grow and evolve, not past what they are, but just grow into a more mature version of what they are. So, I'm looking forward to Inside Out. We also had the new Garfield trailer, which I heard wasn't a very good trailer. I hadn't seen it until now. And it's not the best. I didn't mind the first trailer. I did like the whole Snoop Dogg as a cat. I did like that. But. Look, I have no problem with Chris Pratt as Garfield. I know he's got some opinions, like for his personal life, like religion or whatever or whatnot. First off, fine, as a person, whatever. But we're not talking as a person. We're talking about as a performer. And the fact is, if you like someone as a performer, so provided they're not a murderer or a rapist or anything like that, if you like someone as a performer, then whoever they are in their real life, I think can be forgiven. As long as you're not just a hateful, spiteful person. Now, I don't know what the real issue people are having with Chris Pratt is on that front. To some people, it may just be oversaturation. And you know what? That is fair. Like I said, I'm not tired of the Aquafina stuff yet. But for me, it's like Kevin Hart. I'm not quite done with Kevin Hart either, but it's always been a tightrope walk with Kevin Hart. It really has. And it's like with Jack Black. Some people tired of Jack Black. I ain't tired of Jack Black. I'll take Jack Black all day. But I can still understand where someone could come from with like oversaturation or something like that. I think maybe that's more the issue with Chris Pratt than anything else. Of that, I think he's just been oversaturated into the pop. Because look, he really can't. He was in Parks and Rec for years, but he really had this big breakout with Guardians of the Galaxy. Then he was in Jurassic World. He was in 3 ongoing franchises, plus the extra Marvel films that he was in, and we know he will still return in the MCU. So that's already 3 major movie franchises that we are getting bombarded with Chris Pratt. Not to mention he starred in other movies, including Passengers. He was in the the Magnificent Seven movie, which I like that movie actually. Passengers was okay. And if I were thinking even harder, I could definitely think of more movies he had been in since then. But yeah, that's a lot. And I think we just got kind of shoved in our face a little bit. Now, I still like Chris Pratt. I also go see Chris Pratt movies, but I'm not going to lie and say I can't understand it, at least on some level there. Despicable Me 4, which, whatever, I'll be there. They'll make money. God bless. It actually does. The honey badger stuff I actually kind of found funny. Because honey badgers, you want to have a guardian, well, get yourself a honey badger. Honey badgers are pretty badass. But overall, I'm like, yeah, all right, it's Despicable Me. I'm not big on Despicable Me, to be honest. I don't hate it. I'm just not my jam particularly. I like the Minion movies okay. And I like the Despicable Me movies okay. So yeah, I can't remember any other trailer apart from the one I still have stuck in my mind right now. I'm trying to remember if there was any other trailers. This is why I got to bring my notebook. If I still have my notebook around here somewhere, it's probably downstairs. I can't think of any movie except for this. Now, this movie, I'm pretty ear to the ground when it comes to movies coming out, knowing what movies are coming out, at least in concept, hearing about movies, whatnot. I had no idea this movie was coming out. The Wild Robot. And if you haven't seen a trailer for this, check it out. Because it's a combination, it's DreamWorks for How to Train Your Dragons, and it's a combination of that visual style, How to Train Your Dragon, Iron Giant, and WALL-E, along with, I want to say, a little How to Train Your Dragon in there, maybe like a little bit of the Lost Dinosaur, I think it was, but it visually looked stunning, and animals are such like kind of pure things in many ways, like how we bond, how we connect with animals. There's a purity to that, and a robot basically just surviving in the wild, learning about nature, protecting these animals, and just growing with that. Like, there is something that I'm watching this. I'm like, I'm getting emotional just watching this trailer. I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm probably going to be bawling in this movie if I'm not careful. It's like, okay, steal your heart. No, because you see your baby. Oh, no. It's probably going to be me. Because that's the thing. There's only a couple things in movies. I mean, before my mother passed, there was very little in movies that could get me to react. And on that level, I could be moved, sure. But it was very little that could really hit me at the point where I'm going to start crying. The only thing that it would ever come to is a relationship between a man and their dog, and particularly if a dog dies. That scene in I Am Legend, I still can't watch to this day because I'm like, no, don't do this to me, don't do this to me. Because I've had dogs and I've lost dogs, so I'm like, no. But now it's that the relationship between man and animal, or robot and animal in this case, the purity of that relationship. Also, anything to do with mothers and mothers passing and the love shared, that's gonna get me. Same with dads too, to be honest. I still occasionally, I can off and on watch the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but when Yondu, who in this case would be a surrogate for my mom, is getting his funeral, and Cat Stevens Time to Make a Change breaks starts. I don't know if that's the actual name of that song, by the way. I can't remember. Um, I'm like, oh Jesus, oh no, here it comes. Here comes the waterworks. So yeah, there are definitely things I'm sensitive to now that I've experienced more of life. The older I've gotten, the more I've experienced, the more I react to at some level. And there's a hair in my eye. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But overall, yeah, those are the trailers. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys for Imaginary tomorrow. And plus, I got my pre-record my what if for tomorrow as well. See you later, and have a good one.